In the silence of the forgotten pages, a secret Bible waits to be revealed. In it, the truth is hidden about a hidden enemy that threatened Jesus' life. This mysterious antagonist, shrouded in shadow, has been carefully erased from history. But why did the Church prefer to keep this secret? The power and influence of this figure could shake the foundations of what we believe we know. Imagine an adversary who not only challenged Christ, but also manipulated crucial events, leaving indelible marks on the Christian narrative. What mysteries can be revealed by apocryphal texts that the Church does not want us to know? With each page, new questions arise. Who really was this enemy? What did he have to gain from the fall of Jesus? And why was the truth silenced? As the mystery deepens, the tension increases. What does the story hide? Prepare yourself for a journey that could transform your understanding of the events that shaped the Christian faith. The key to unlocking this secret may be closer than you think. What would you do if you discovered the hidden truth? Apocryphal texts are those that were not included in the official biblical canon, but that bring a wealth of information and perspectives. Many of these writings, dating from the first centuries of Christianity, present alternative views on the life and role of Jesus. Some of them mention figures who could be seen as antagonists, revealing conflicts and tensions that are not present in the canonical Gospels. This raises the question, why were these texts deleted? The exclusion of these writings may be linked to a desire to maintain a cohesive and controlled narrative about the figure of Jesus. When one analyzes these texts, one realizes that many of them offer a more complex view of Jesus' interactions with his opponents. For example, there are reports that suggest he had opponents not only in religious authorities, but also in political and social groups of the time. These revelations can help us better understand the context in which Jesus operated. Furthermore, apocryphal texts also present the idea that the struggle between good and evil is not as simple as it may seem. The duality between Jesus and his enemies is often explored in ways that challenge the traditional view. By delving deeper into these narratives, the reader can find a range of interpretations about Jesus' mission and the forces that opposed him. These writings are often filled with symbolism and allegory, which can make direct interpretation difficult. However, they also offer clues that can enrich the understanding of the spirituality and beliefs of the time. When considering the revelations contained in these texts, it is possible to glimpse a broader dimension of the message that Jesus tried to convey. The analysis of apocryphal texts invites us to reflect on the history of the Church and its choices over the centuries. The exclusion of certain writings may have been motivated by reasons that go beyond theological issues, also involving issues of power and control over the Christian narrative. When we talk about the hidden enemy in relation to Jesus, we come across a figure who may have influenced his trajectory in a significant way. This enemy is not necessarily a specific person, but can be understood as a set of forces and interests that oppose Jesus' message. What makes this figure even more intriguing is the lack of clarity regarding his motivations and actions. Some scholars believe that this hidden enemy could be represented by the religious authorities of the time, who feared Jesus' growing influence over the masses. They could have seen him as a threat to their power and therefore sought to discredit him. Other interpretations suggest that this enemy could be a broader force, representing the political and social system that perpetuated oppression. It is interesting to think about how the presence of this hidden enemy affected not only Jesus' life, but also the way his followers interpreted his teachings. The tension between Jesus and his opponents is a recurring theme in the Gospels, but the idea of an enemy operating in the shadows adds a layer of complexity to this narrative. This figure may have influenced the events that led to his crucifixion and, consequently, the formation of the Christian faith. Furthermore, identifying this hidden enemy can help clarify some of the messages Jesus conveyed. He often spoke about the struggle between light and darkness, as well as the need for resistance to evil. Understanding who or what this enemy represents can illuminate the importance of these messages, offering a deeper perspective on Jesus' mission. Investigating the role of the hidden enemy leads us to reflect on how the forces that oppose good continue to be present in contemporary society. The struggle between good and evil, although often represented in a simplistic way, is a theme that resonates across many cultures and beliefs, and the figure of this hidden enemy can serve as a reminder of the complexities of this battle. Interpretations regarding the figure of the hidden enemy are far from unanimous. Different theological and historical currents have varied approaches to this topic. While some traditions emphasize the spiritual struggle between good and evil, others may see the hidden enemy as a metaphor for the challenges everyone faces in their lives. This diversity of interpretations enriches the discussion about Jesus' message. In the history of Christian theology, many theologians have addressed the idea that the hidden enemy represents not only external adversaries, but also the internal difficulties that each individual faces. This view suggests that the battle against evil is not just a fight against external forces, but also an internal conflict that requires self-knowledge and reflection. This interpretation may be especially relevant in contemporary contexts, where people seek to understand their own struggles. Furthermore, some more liberal currents may see the hidden enemy as a social construction, reflecting the political and cultural tensions of Jesus' time. This perspective suggests that the figure of the enemy is not only a representation of evil, but also a way of criticizing unjust and oppressive systems. This approach can open space for discussions about social justice and resistance to modern oppression. Another interesting interpretation is that the hidden enemy represents the doubt and uncertainty that many face in their faith. This internal struggle can be seen as part of the process of spiritual growth, where questioning and seeking answers is fundamental. This view is especially relevant in a world where religion is often challenged by new ideas and discoveries. Interpretations about the hidden enemy not only influence the understanding of Jesus' message, but also shape the practice and experience of the Christian faith over the centuries. This figure continues to provoke debate and reflection, challenging believers to consider how the forces of evil manifest in their lives and the world around them. Censorship and narrative control are themes that permeate the history of the Church and its relationship with sacred texts. Since the beginnings of Christianity, the ecclesiastical institution has exercised significant power over which writings are considered sacred and which are rejected. This selection was not always based on theological criteria, but often reflected political and social interests of the time. The exclusion of apocryphal texts, for example, can be seen as a way of protecting a certain view about Jesus and his message. Furthermore, censorship was not limited to just deleting texts. Biblical passages were often manipulated and reinterpreted to adapt to official doctrine. This generated a narrative that favored the Church and its leaders, while marginalizing alternative voices that could challenge that authority. Over time, this practice consolidated a single view of the figure of Jesus, limiting debate and reflection on his life and teachings. The reasons for this censorship are varied. In many cases, the Church sought to maintain unity among the faithful, avoiding divergent interpretations that could lead to internal conflicts. In others, there was a desire to protect the power and influence that the Church exercised in society. Thus, the narrative that has come down to us was shaped by interests that often had no direct relationship with Jesus' original message. This control over the narrative also had an impact on relationships with other religious traditions. Texts that could offer a different perspective on the figure of Jesus or on the nature of good and evil were systematically excluded. The consequence of this is that many aspects of Christian spirituality have been simplified or distorted, creating a binary vision that does not contemplate the complexity of moral and spiritual issues. Censorship and narrative control raise important questions about the authenticity of Christian teachings. If the story of Jesus was shaped by institutional interests, to what extent can we trust the interpretations presented to us? This doubt invites us to explore historical sources more deeply and to consider the plurality of voices that have existed throughout the history of Christianity. The revelation of the existence of a hidden enemy can have profound consequences for Christian doctrine. Firstly, it may challenge the traditional view of a world divided between good and evil. If there are figures who acted in the shadows, manipulating events and influencing the narrative, understanding the struggle between these forces becomes more complex. This new perspective could lead to a reevaluation of how Christians view sin, temptation, and the nature of evil itself. Furthermore, the identification of a hidden enemy can open space for a broader debate about moral responsibility. If the Church and its leaders were complicit in silencing alternative voices, it would raise questions about the ethics of human actions in the name of God. The doctrine that teaches that everyone is responsible for their choices can be expanded to include institutional and collective responsibility. This can transform the way believers relate to the Church and its leadership. Another important consequence would be the possibility of reform within the Church itself. Recognition that the traditional narrative may have been manipulated could spur a movement toward transparency and honesty. This could result in a review of the Church's teachings and practices, aiming for greater inclusion and acceptance of different interpretations. This type of change could attract new adherents and revitalize faith among those who feel alienated by the rigidity of current doctrines. Furthermore, this new perspective on the hidden enemy could bring to light discussions about the interpretation of sacred texts. If certain writings were censored for political reasons, re-evaluating these texts could enrich the understanding of Jesus' message. This could also lead to greater ecumenism, where different Christian traditions would come together to explore these issues together, seeking a deeper and more comprehensive understanding. The revelation of the hidden enemy could encourage a greater search for authenticity in the practice of faith. Christians might feel the need to question and investigate further, rather than simply accepting established doctrine. This desire for a more genuine and less institutionalized spirituality could transform the experience of Christian faith, bringing new vigor and new relevance to the message of Jesus in a contemporary world. The figure of the enemy hidden around Jesus has generated a series of conspiracy theories today. Many people believe that crucial information about his life and teachings was deliberately covered up. Amid this search for hidden truths, questions arise about what we really know about the history of Christianity. These theories often feed on distrust of religious institutions, particularly the Vatican, which is seen as a keeper of secrets and historical narrative. For some, the Vatican is primarily responsible for keeping certain information from the public. Critics argue that the Catholic Church has a history of censorship and controlling the narrative, especially when it comes to apocryphal texts and figures who challenge the official view of the faith. This perception feeds the idea that the Church is not just a religious institution, but also a political power that shapes history for its own benefit. Fear of losing influence can lead to the suppression of information considered inconvenient. Furthermore, criticism is not limited to just the Vatican. Other religious institutions are also targets of distrust. Many people see these organizations as protectors of dogmas that, over time, may no longer be relevant. Resistance to new interpretations and maintaining a single narrative raises questions about the transparency and honesty of these institutions. As a result, distrust towards them continues to grow. Conspiracy theories also extend to individuals who claim to be bearers of hidden truths, creating a new class of knowledge keepers. These theorists, frequently present on social media, attract followers with promises of revealing information that dismantles the traditional narrative. This generates a vicious cycle of misinformation and skepticism, where the search for truth can become more a matter of belief than proven facts. The impact of these conspiracy theories on contemporary society is significant. They not only question the validity of what has been taught for centuries, but also encourage more critical reflection on the history of religion. This search for alternative answers can be seen as a form of empowerment, where people become more attentive and demanding in relation to what they consume as truth. However, it is essential to approach these topics with caution, so that the search for truth does not turn into a distortion of reality. Now that we've explored the mysteries of this hidden Bible, it's time to reflect on what it all means. Who really is this hidden enemy of Jesus? And why did the Vatican try so hard to keep this information secret? These questions may seem simple, but the answers can lead us to a new understanding of what we know about history and spirituality. Imagine if everything we learn about Jesus and his role in history was just on the surface. What else could be hiding in the shadows? Are there other apocryphal texts that reveal more secrets? And what about historical figures who may have been misunderstood or even demonized? We invite you to continue this journey of discovery. Leave your theories and reflections in the comments. Do you believe that this mysterious figure still influences the world today? What other secrets do you think the Church might be hiding? Don't forget to like and share this video so more people can join this fascinating discussion. Together we will unravel the mysteries surrounding the life of Jesus and what really lies behind the curtains of history. What else can we discover?